Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Yosh. You already knew that. So, we are now into week 3. I am currently in week 4 of my study in the Science of Well-Being, and this is a course that was offered on Coursera. I posted about it a few weeks ago and I've been following through, and I make videos about my studies and my learnings through the course, and I hope to try and get it through to you in a way that is easy to consume and you don't have to go through much of the studying, and I try to distill it for you guys. So, just to recap on last week we talked about one of the annoying features of our minds, which is that your strongest intuitions are often wrong. Now, I gave a lot of evidence and a lot of research papers and examples as to why this feature is so annoying and how this can negatively impact your view on happiness, right? So, this week we're going to talk about all of the annoying features of the mind, which are 4. So today we're going to talk about 4 annoying features of the mind, and I'm not going to repeat annoying feature number 1, which is our strongest intuitions are often wrong. Now, just to add on top of it from last week, I think an interesting thing that I saw in the lectures this week was that there was a nice term that was coined by Tim Wilson and Dan Gilbert, and the term is miswanting. So I really like this term miswanting because it basically says it is the act of mistaking what and how you will like something in the future. So you falsely divine what you want and how much you will like it in the future. And it is this case of miswanting. You want a better job. When you have $80,000, you want $100,000 in the job salaries. And if you have $100,000, it goes to 150 to 200. It never stops. It never ever stops, and you constantly are the donkey with a carrot stuck in front of him. And every time the donkey takes a step forward, the carrot moves forward with him. So, this is annoying feature number 1. Let's go into annoying feature number 2. Annoying feature number 2 is that our minds don't think in absolutes. So this is a great example of why anyone on social media, or this generation of people growing up with social media, are having such a hard time sort of self-regulating and understanding how good their lives already are. Because what I mean by our minds don't think in absolutes is the fact that you always look at your life in comparison to relatives. We don't see things in absolutes. If you say that you are earning $100,000, and last week I was saying that if you're above $75,000 US, you pretty much level out in terms of emotional well-being, right? Let's say, for example, that you are earning $100,000 now. That is your salary. One of your colleagues, very close colleague of yours, gets a pay bump to $125,000 or $150,000. Suddenly, your emotional well-being is affected by it because you are now looking in relevance to your close colleague who's now got a bump up to $150,000, and you're wondering what's wrong with you. What are you doing wrong? Why am I not getting that bump in salary? Why? What do I have to do? What do I have to say? Did I not please someone? Did I do something wrong? No. It's just an annoying feature of your mind where you always tend to compare in relatives. So this is an excellent example, and this leads on to things like social comparison as well. You know, our minds really truly suck at picking reference points. Even though you have a good job, and even though you have a good family, or even though you have a good partner or a wife or good kids or whatever it is, you have a good enough car, our minds really suck at picking out good reference points. So there was a study done, I believe it's Medvec et al. In 1995. They take a reference point. So for example, one person wins the lottery and they get a car along with that lottery. And they started measuring, they started watching and keeping track of all the neighbors that are close to the people who won the lottery and the car. So the car is a trick. It's part of the experiment because the car gets parked outside the people who won the lottery and everyone knows and associates that car with winning the lottery. So they watched all the houses and the neighbors that were around these people who apparently won the lottery, and one or two houses close to them. The closer they were, a closer neighbor you were to the people who won the lottery, they tended to go out of their way to buy a brand new car. Simply because their minds really, really suck at making good reference points. You think that that person got a car, you think, oh, I should probably up my game as well. This looks kind of bad. Like, I don't know. The justifications are innumerable. They're endless. But people do this. And you've probably got examples about something like this. So please leave a comment down in the description below. Leave a comment down in the description. No, leave a comment in the comment section below. Don't leave it in the description. I don't think you can. Alright. So that's annoying feature number 2. We really don't think in absolutes, not like a computer. We always think about it, think about our lives, think about our journeys and our experience and our level of happiness and everything else with reference points. And there, we suck at taking reference points. We suck at getting good reference points and setting good reference points. So social media adds on top of this. This is why my generation, who have had to deal with this force that was not ever seen in the past from our parents' generations to before that, this new social comparison tool makes our lives and the need for comparison even larger and even more obvious. We go on, like this generation of people go on social media at age 16 and upwards, and all they do is compare the A-roll of someone else's life to the B-roll of your life. And let me explain that for a second. So in social media, more often than not, you will put up your new Mercedes, you will put up your business class tickets, you will put up your brand new house, you will put up your newborn baby, you will put up your happiest moments with your partner, but no one ever really posts about their miscarriage, their bank loan, going under, their mortgage falling through and losing their home, them being homeless, their dog dying, their partner leaving them. No one puts this stuff up, do they? So, this in itself shows us that that person, the social media presence of anyone, is not essentially what their life, the whole 100% of their life is. But we look at celebrities and we look at all these influencers and all of those people, and we look at their lives and go, man, I wish my videos were better. I wish I was doing something like that. I wish I had that car. I wish someone gave me free stuff. But the problem is that you are looking at a curated view of that person's life as opposed to the complete nooks and crannies, the good and the bad, all of it, of your life. So you're not really making a proper comparison, a fair comparison. Yet, our brains suck at looking at absolutes, so it uses that as a reference point, and we constantly whirl ourselves up from bed, go to work that we don't like to do, earn money that we don't know how to spend, just trying to chase after an A-roll of someone else when you already got enough, and you already have enough. Annoying feature of the mind, number 2. Annoying feature of the mind, number 3. Our minds are designed to get used to things. And this is a really, really important thing. Now, I don't know whether you guys have seen any of those instances where they put up a negatively colored image on screen and then they flip it. And when it goes back to, like once you stare at that image for a long time, and then once the image goes away, your eyes will show an inverse color of it. So a good example was like a flag of a country inverted in colors, or someone's face inverted in colors. stare at it for, I don't know, 30 seconds, 1 minute, whatever it is, and then once it disappears, you see it in color. So this is one of the systems, right? That it's an example of one of the systems. It's called perceptual adaptation. Perceptual adaptation is that your brain gets adapted to look at that color. You know it's wrong, but when it disappears, your brain immediately starts feeding it information even though there's nothing there in that feed. The same thing happens with your perfume. You spray it, 30 seconds later or 60 seconds later, you can't smell it anymore. A person who lives next to rail tracks or train tracks, they go get trains going all the time. Your brain automatically starts to shut that information down and starts to filter it on your behalf so that you're not reacting to unnecessary information. This is perceptual adaptation. And similarly, this is part of a bigger system called hedonic adaptation, which is the ability for our human mind to go through literally the worst and the best, and we will still come back to neutrality. We will always come back to baseline. And most people don't realize this. You look at your exam results. If you're a kid, you're about to sit your, advanced level examinations or GCE or whatever you call it. You think, oh man, I'm gonna fail this, and if I fail this, I'm gonna not get into Yale, right? You think that it's gonna cause you the most grief that you've ever felt in your life. Your partner, you're like, oh, I can't afford to lose her/him. If they leave me, I will be but a husk. Oh ye, oh ye. Like the whole drama of it, right? Like the drama, right? But hedonic adaptation, or more commonly known as the hedonic treadmill, is that no matter how good or how bad, good, you win the lottery. You say, yes, if I win the lottery, I will be happy forever and ever and ever. I know it. I just know it, so please give it to me. Good and the bad, the hedonic treadmill basically says that you will eventually come back to baseline, no matter what you think will make you happy. That is a psychological defense mechanism of your mind. But it is also an annoying feature of your mind because you also get used to the good things. If you have a really good partner, you get used to the good they do for you. You get used to the things that you get in the morning. Maybe that person will bring you tea in the morning. You get used to that. Maybe that person, cooks for you or does the housework for you or goes to work and earns money, looks after the kids, whatever it is, washes the car. Simple things, right? You get used to it because when they first do it, it's interesting, it's good, it's great, wow, this is brilliant, wow, this is a perfect relationship, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward 2, 3, 4 years, it's like, yeah, well, that's part of the routine. It's part of your job. Do it. Sounds rude, but I think if you're being very honest, you can relate to this at some level. It's not just partners, it's not just about anything else. It's everything that you thought you wanted and got, or didn't want and got, and you survived. So it leads back to that, good old-fashioned cliched statement, what doesn't kill you definitely makes you stronger, but also you forget that it made you strong. So your new baseline is set and you forget. When you get a new job, a new baseline, your new reference point gets added, and now you're comparing from the 100,000 level. But after a few months, you're like, well, I can spend all this 100,000. You get used to it. And then you want more, right? And there's a great book that helps you combat against this. And that is by Daniel Gilbert, called Stumbling in Happiness. I'm going to read that after the current book that I'm reading. But it essentially it essentially teaches you how to combat when you're getting used to things. And this is important because I haven't brought my sheets. I'll bring that in 1 sec. Give me a second. Okay, so I brought my sheets. That's my rewirement exercises, but I'll get to that. Annoying feature number 3, our minds are designed to get used to things. The best way to combat it is by mindfulness. You are being grateful for everything that you have, everything that someone does for you, every relationship that you have. You are grateful for it. It sounds really hipster and, oh God, this spiritual mumbo jumbo. But no, it's true. It's one of our annoying features that are designed, like it's inside our systems, it's inside our mind, and there's nothing you can do about it except to actively combat it. And the only way to do that is by being really thankful for everything that you have, your house, your car, your current camera, whatever else you think that you need or want. It's pointless. Even once you achieve it, you will still level out to your baseline, and you will seek something else, and another thing, and another thing, and another thing, and it will never stop. So that's annoying feature number 3. Annoying feature number 4 is probably the most deadliest. Deadliest? No, the most nefarious. I'm going to say nefarious because this is unlike the other annoying features of the mind. You can actively pick out points where you are getting used to something, where you are thinking in terms of relatives instead of absolutes, and our strongest intuitions we think that we want X, Y, Z thing, but we can sort of combat it with mindfulness, being thankful, and doing all of that stuff that we've spoke about the past few weeks. But annoying feature number 4 of our mind is that we don't realize that our minds get used to things. We don't realize that our minds are basically on a hedonic treadmill. This is the scariest part. Whenever you think about, so if you, again, this comes back to some of our first lessons. Is knowing enough that your mind gets used to things? No, it's not. Knowing is half the battle is wrong. This is the G.I. Joe fallacy. We studied that in week 1. It's not enough to know, because some components of your mind, you don't even realize that you get used to things. You don't even realize that you get used to your partner. You don't even realize that you get used to your car. You get used to a lifestyle, a routine, everything that you have, your kids, etc., etc., etc. You take things for granted because you get used to it. And once you get used to it, you don't even realize you've got used to it. Chances are you would describe it with a phrase that sounds something along the lines of, you have changed, I have changed, our goals have changed, things have changed. You describe it away because you don't realize that we're miswanting, right? That our minds are designed to get used to things that we have permanently. If there's a routine, I don't know. To me, this sounds like a perfect description. The last 2 annoying features of the mind sound like a perfect description of a midlife crisis. When you start to settle in your personality, when you start to settle in who you are and what your values are and what you want to do, all that stuff, people tend to get used to the stuff that's around them. Their jobs become boring, their partners become boring, their crappy old 6-seater minivan becomes boring. You just want to up and run away from all of that. All of that annoying shit that you've been doing for like the past 10 years, it's too much. You're just like, I'm out. I'm buying a sports car. I'm getting the frick out of here, right? And you do it. And once people go through it, chances are they end up with the same answer, which is that they even got used to that lifestyle. And some don't realize that they got used to that lifestyle, and they go down a very destructive path, and they continue to sort of live in that lavish, I don't know, it's self-destructive. Let's not say lavish, self-destructive. There's nothing wrong with being lavish. If you have the money, go for it, go nuts. That's not my cup of tea, but alright. It's more self-destructive. You are so consumed by your chasing of a high that you never stop. You never stop doing it because you're just constantly seeking a high after a high after a high. And I don't mean like in terms of drugs. Drugs are also similar thing. You use it to escape, you're in big trouble, right? When you start using drugs to escape reality, that becomes a massive issue. That's when it leads to addiction. Some drugs probably will lead to addiction from the first hit. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know enough. I haven't studied enough. Maybe we can study that later. But stuff like whatever you're doing, whatever you're doing, you close a deal, you want to close a bigger deal, and you want a bigger deal, and a bigger deal. And you don't look at the stress and the other things that it's affecting in your life to achieve that next level high, right? Even in relationships, things start to go a certain way and it settles down. It sort of starts to take this flatline approach with few bumps here and there. You get used to it. It's like, this is bloody boring. I don't want to put up with this shit all the time. Like, and you just don't realize that you've just gotten used to the things that were absolutely novel and brand new in your life. I don't know, 4, 5, 10 years ago, right? So this is one of the scarier ones because talking about some of the studies that we did last week, you have to understand that there's something called impact bias. When you look at certain things, especially when you look at the things that you've gotten used to, there's something called impact bias, and there's a positive impact bias and negative impact bias, and I'll just explain what that is. Impact bias is when you look at something and you gauge for yourself how bad or good it will affect your mood and it will affect your life. You look at positive, lottery, winning the lottery. I'll be fantastic. I'll be set for life. That's all I ever wanted. Good. But our positive impact biases, more often that we make, are closer to reality, but it's still off. You think that you're going to be at a happiness level 9 or a 8, but if you win the lottery, you'd probably feel like a 7.5 because, bump up and then you come back to baseline in a few weeks. But here's the scary, messed up part. Just like you have positive impact bias, you have something called negative impact bias. And negative impact bias, you are absolutely rubbish at making judgments based on that. It's stuff that we think will affect us negatively and we are completely off, right? So with positive, let's say you win the lottery, you say, I'm going to feel like an 8, you feel like a 7.5. It's not a big jump, but it's still an overestimation of how happy you feel. But when it's a negative impact bias, you'd say, if my partner leaves me or divorces or whatever it is, that negative impact bias, you'd go, okay, if I'm a 6 normally, I'd probably feel like a 1 or a 2. So huge drop in points. But in reality, the thing is, you won't drop as much. You would come out back to baseline anyway. It's just that we gauge that completely wrong because we don't realize that our minds get used to things and we forget that we get used to things. And these things are thanks to things like focal biases. You focus on the bad when you predict which will make you, mispredict. So for example, you're about to get an injection, you focus on it and it gets even more painful because you're focusing on it. But after the fact or during it, if you did not focus on it, chances are you wouldn't feel it as bad. And knowing all of these 4 things, these 4 annoying features of the mind, is part of something that is described in this course as immune neglect. Psychological immune neglect. Your brain, just like your body, your mind, not your brain, your mind has an immune system, a psychological immune system that it uses to protect itself, right? And just like your body protects itself from external issues and internal issues and maintains balance, your mind maintains its balance by cutting out information, making you forget things, making you not see stuff in a certain way. And that's where this statement, immune neglect, comes from. It is the process by which you are unaware of your own psychological immune system. So the point of it is that we and our minds are more resilient than we think. But because of these annoying features of the mind, you tend to forget that. So I hope this video reminds you that you are definitely more resilient than you think. And I hope you take the annoying features of the mind and start acting against them. Alright, so let's do a quick rundown of the annoying 4 features of the mind and then wrap this up, and I will see you in the next week. So annoying feature number 1 is that your strongest intuitions are often wrong. The job, the partner, all the money that you think will make you happy is probably a misguided notion that your brain throws at you, when in reality it will not improve your overall emotional well-being. Annoying feature number 2, your mind works in relatives and never in absolutes. So you constantly socially comparing yourself, going on Instagram, Facebook, looking at influencers, looking at people who are better pastry chefs than you, looking at other people's pets and dogs, thinking that they're cuter than yours. If you don't have a dog or a cat, you'd much rather stare at those cats instead of even actually thinking about finding a way to get yourself a dog. Like, go out there and solve a problem, because those will make you happier than comparing yourself and always consuming the stuff that's out there on social media around you, the people, things that people have, all of that stuff. So get out of your own head, get out of those bad habits. If you can, one good way to sort of combat annoying feature number 2 is to get off social media. Easy as that. Really just stop it. The amount of improvement it will bring your life is massive. It's proven. Annoying feature number 3, your mind gets used to things. So even when you get that job, even when you get the perfect partner, even when you're in the perfect relationship, even when you have all of the things that you've thought that you wanted, your mind ultimately stabilizes, comes back to its normancy, and then it's the standard. You basically come back to baseline and you don't feel happier for it. So it's a never-ending cycle. So knowing this is important. Knowing that no matter what you seek and what you desire, once you achieve it, it will come to the point where it still feels like it's all the same. Because annoying feature number 2, your baseline changes and you start comparing from that relative state. Annoying feature number 4, your mind doesn't even realize that your mind gets used to things. Which means that when you eventually come and get the perfect partner or the perfect job or the perfect car, all of that situation, when you do get used to it, you don't even realize that you've gotten used to it. So we will talk more next week about how to actively combat these stuff, and I might break those into smaller videos, because I feel like these 30-minute compilations are probably a bit too much information to take in one go, and I tend to rant on a bit. So I might break them up into smaller videos on how to combat them, because how to combat these annoying features of the mind, I feel like, are one of the most important things that you can learn from these videos. So that's it. Thanks again for watching. I hope you learned something. If you like these videos, leave a comment down below, do a thumbs up, do all the things that YouTubers tell you to do. And I hope to see you guys next week. I apologize for not putting this video up at my normal time. I was just a bit flat out, but I'll put week 4. I'm studying it right now. Week 4 is going to be interesting because it's about actively combating this stuff, not just knowing. So I'm pretty excited. I hope you are too. I'll catch you guys in the next video. And until then, peace out. One of our annoying features of our mind is that